This is open, my friends. Welcome to the Bettor Sports Network. If you haven't been here, glad that you're with us. You know this is one of the best places to talk sports and betting and fantasy and collectibles. And this show is easy. You just press the join button, you come join the show, you leave your questions in here, we answer them. It's very interactive. Love doing this. Tuesday night is one of my favorite nights of the week. Why? Because it is waiver wire night. Now, in high stakes, it's Wednesday, but I got to get the juices going Tuesday, right? I have leagues that are home leagues. I have leagues that are expert leagues. I mean, between tonight at 3 a.m. and tomorrow at 10 p.m., I'm in waivers in 25 leagues. I mean, it's a lot. I'm not going to lie. I literally got pages upon pages of this is old school. Old school. So I got pages upon pages of guys and player notes and what I need to do. But we have a big show tonight. You know we're going to talk about waiver names. We're going to talk about players to pick up. We're going to talk about guys who I think have a real opportunity to succeed over the coming weeks. Okay. We have Dr. Jesse Morse joining us a little after 8 o'clock. We'll break down some of the injuries with him. And then my guy, Jason Braddock, will be here at 8:30 tonight, breaking down everything we saw from week number 4. So let's talk a little bit. Let's just say you're 2-2, you're 1-3, you're 0-4. Is it time to flush your season in a toilet bowl? No. Especially if you're in high stakes leagues, you are not flushing your season in a toilet bowl. Because the beautiful thing about high stakes leagues, total points. It's not just about who wins. It's not a home league. It's not a home league where your record dictates everything. And I don't like leagues where records dictate everything. I've gone on the record about this. Think about it this way. I could lose every single week to the team who has the highest point total every week. I would be a big loser, right? 0-14. But am I really a bad team? If I have the second most points in the league, I was unlucky. So if you're in a league that just uses record to determine playoffs, be in a different league. So if you're in a high stakes league, you got to put points on the board. So I want to talk to you about that. Spy007 said you need some waiver wire players. I'm here for you. We're going to get to those players. Now, I'm going to tell you something that's antithetical to our way of thinking. If you are 1-3 and 0-4, you may have to start playing matchups more than your guys. So, for example, just giving you for example, let's say DJ Moore was playing the Green Bay Packers. Would I sit him? Without question. Without question. Do I like DJ Moore? I do. I hate Baker Mayfield. I hate Ben McAdoo. I hate Matt Rule. I hate the situation he's in. It's reminiscent of Allen Robinson circa 2021. It's like Terry McLaurin from last year at best. When they interviewed DJ Moore and they said, Matt Rule said, you need to help Baker Mayfield by getting open, DJ Moore could almost, I give him a lot of credit for not opening up the can of crazy, because I would have opened up the can of crazy. But that's why he's a professional and I'm just a guy here on the radio. I'd open up my crazy. I'd be like, are you nuts? I'm open. I wake out of bed in the morning, I'm open. Baker Mayfield couldn't find me if I was the only guy in the field. That's what I'd say. And then, of course, I get suspended for a week, and I'd be like, whatever, Baker still sucks. Get him off the field. I mean, when you're clamoring for Cameron Newton, that's when you know how bad you are. When Panther fans are reminiscing about Cam Newton, that's when you know it's a problem. But I digress. My point being is you got to throw matchups out. If the guy has a tough matchup, then you can't play him. Now, you're 4-0, you're 3-1. You want to be a little bit more conservative? I get it. But at 1-3 and 0-4, you're going to have to take some risks. Now, risks are dangerous. High risk, high reward. It could be a problem. But you got to be in it and you got to pay very close attention. Because all of a sudden, 0-4 is not over. 0-5, you're teetering. 0-6, I'm hitting panic button. Now, here's the crazy thing. If you had, I don't know, Gabe Davis and Allen Robinson and maybe A.J. Dillon and let's see, I don't know, Dawson Knox and a few other guys, then I'd say you did a good job drafting, but it hasn't paid off. Not your fault. But SPY 07, so for high stakes, it's better look at total points and record. Always total points and record. So I'm going to tell you a story, everybody. And my friend Chad out there, he'll know this to be true. And this is why it was funny, because Chad was involved in the story. One year I'm in a FFWC league. It was I don't know if it was a Beat Dr. Roto league. It might have been. I had a record. It was like 3-10 or something ridiculous like that. But I was the second highest scoring team in the league. Chad, very smartly, used to play in DFS the guys that I was playing against that week because he knew I was just having bad luck. Here's the funny thing. Do you know who won that league? I did, because I made it into the playoffs and I had the highest point total. So even though I finished 3-10 during the season, I was a really good team. So in high stakes leagues, I go back to the fact that check the point total. Put up 150 points every week from now on for the next 10 weeks. You got a shot. You got a shot. You put up 100, you put up anything under 100, you got no shot. So if that means you got to stream, if that means you got to bring in guys in and out, that's what you do. That's what you do. So I tell you that it's critical to do what I'm telling you here, because if you don't do it, it's going to be a mess. And I don't want it to be a mess for you. All right. So let's talk some storylines. Firstly, Kenny Pickett is the new starting quarterback for the Steelers. Not a moment too soon. You may see 2 rushing touchdowns and 3 interceptions, and you'd say, oh, he was bad. He wasn't bad. He was 20 million times better than Mitch Trubisky. Even when he was chucking the ball in the air, it wasn't that. It was out of desperation, not out of bad passing. And if I'm not mistaken, Claypool knocked one in the air and Michael Carter intercepted it. Kenny Pickett is going to be fine. Now, I'm going to tell you this. Don't pick up Kenny Pickett and expect, gumdrops and rainbows. It's not going to be leprechauns and unicorns. He's a rookie. But he's going to be with George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Patty Fry, who I really like. A rookie's best friend is a tight end security blanket. Did you see when he came on the field, Pat Freiermuth was 7 for 85? Don't be shocked to see Pat Freiermuth be one of the most valuable guys down the stretch. If there's a guy that I could trade for right now, I would trade for Pat Freiermuth. I would. Rookie quarterbacks always go to tight end security blankets. Always. The Colts. What's going on with the Colts? I'll tell you what's going on with the Colts. Sometimes you don't want to blow it up. So you kind of bandage it up. You put in a little Carson Wentz bandage. You put in a little Matt Ryan bandage. But you know what you got? You got leaks. You got leaks. And you don't want leaks in your house. So what you do is you blow it up. And then you bring in a good young quarterback next year. You bring in a guy maybe like C.J. Stroud. You put C.J. Stroud in with Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman, and you know what you have? You have yourself a playoff team. You have yourself a playoff team. But the Matt Ryan experiment, not going to end well. You lose Shaquille Leonard. The dude is one of the best linebackers in the NFL by far. So you lose him as well. It's not good. So you got a mediocre quarterback at best, a guy who's well beyond his years. You lose your best defensive player. What are we expecting? Now the Colts have to go into Denver. Dare I say, I think I like Denver this week. And I don't like Denver at all. I don't like Denver at all. But I will be talking Denver in our next segment. And I will be talking about Mike Boone. Because there's things you need to know about Mike Boone. Heavy T says, is it fair to think that Stroud is a bust because he's coming out of Ohio State and Ohio State never makes quarterbacks? Well, look, My problem with Ohio State, they have great receivers, right? They always have good receivers. I think their quarterbacks could be fine. It's the running backs I don't trust because they see holes that are this big. When you're playing Northwestern, the holes are this big. And so even Carlos Hyde could run through it. But I think when you look at CJ Stroud, he looks different to me, right? I watch a lot of college football. The dude looks like a player. He looks like a player on Sunday. I never felt that way about Justin Fields. You know, I ask myself that question. When I am watching college football on Saturdays, I have one single question that I ask myself. Can I see this guy playing on Sundays? The minute I saw Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, the only word that came out to me, Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. I watched Deshaun Watson, Sunday. I watched Hunter Renfrow, Sunday. Certain guys are Sunday. Sam Hartman, Sunday. Sam Hartman, Sunday. A.J. Perry, Sunday. The dude from Texas A&M, Ashe, Sunday. You can see it. You can see it. You can see it all over them. Some guys are Sunday players. Charlie.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis.
Alvin Kamara, about if I had to guesstimate about an hour before game time, gets ruled out, and it lights the world on fire once everybody wakes up. That had Alvin Kamara still in their lineups, you've got West Coasters trying to get a redo or trying to get a sub in because it's unfair that they have to wake up so early to get him out of the lineup and make sure that everyone who's active and in the lineup should be. But isn't that fantasy football, man? Didn't we warn everyone about this?
Yeah, we had this exact conversation last week, which is why it was so funny when I saw all these people on Twitter complaining and asking for a retroactive move. Because this same situation happened the last time in London, and I went over the story. It involved Alvin Kamara. Same thing. My opponent had Kamara in the lineup, and in the halfway through the game, he asked the commissioner, hey, I don't even know where maybe he was California, somewhere on the West Coast. Oh, I woke up late. I didn't know he's out. Can I replace him? And the commissioner comes to me and says, hey, your opponent wants to replace Kamara. I'm cool with it if you are. I said, no, I'm not cool with it, man. This is just like anything in life. It's your responsibility. You knew that there are going to be games at 9:30 a.m. Eastern this year. I hate waking up early, but you just have to wake up early and do it.
What's stopping you from going back to bed? That's the big thing. What's stopping you from that? You get up, change your lives, go pee, go back to bed. It's one of those things that from now on, when you have anyone involved in London games that are the least bit questionable, including injuries that you see late in the week, let's say this happens, all of a sudden, minor tweak for someone, like you're still waking up that morning to make sure that player is playing. It's a few weeks a year in row. We're lucky that the NFL doesn't go completely worldwide and we have games in different countries every single week.
Front Yard Fantasy with Simon, JL, and Coop.
Dude, Jeff Wilson looked fantastic last night.
No,
did you see
Jeff Wilson had one great 32-yard touchdown.
Did you see the run? Did you see the run?
JL, the run was incredible. But I just want to look at the rest of this stat line to tell you why I'm not excited about Jeff Wilson. 18 for 74. That's why I'm not excited about Jeff Wilson. 18 for 74 with a 32-yard run. So really, that puts 74 minus 32. Without that one run, that's 17 for 32 yards. Or
4.1 a carry? You're complaining about 4.1 a carry?
Yeah.
Why? 4.1's not that bad.
It's jail. Without that touchdown, we're looking at a 17 for 42-yard game, which is whatever. You know what I mean? Okay, it's fine.
18 carries. You were turning your nose up at 18 carries.
I don't hate Jeff Wilson. And it's not that I won't start him. I think he's a perfectly fine start, but that's where the line ends. Anybody who thinks he's anything more than just a fine start is where I have a problem. He's just not exciting. He's not a player that's going to just completely blow up on a given week. He got the touchdown this week. You're thrilled. But next week when he doesn't get the touchdown, when he's 18 for 57 yards, you're going to be like, well, shoot, another classic Jeff week.
Bettor Sports Network is betting, fantasy, collectibles, It's sports talk done better. On Call with Dr. Roto on Bettor Sports Network.
All right, we're back. It's Dr. Roto here, On Call with Dr. Roto. Check me out at drroto.com for all the information you need to win your fantasy leagues, whether it's DFS. And by the way, our prop betting is so on point. Chris Kennedy, I can't come near him. That's how hot he is. I'm not even playing. This is pure fact. Dude just won 5 out of 5 on Prize Picks on 2 different things. I mean, he is so hot. Chris Kennedy is worth the price of admission himself. That's how good he is, let alone everybody else on my team. So please check it out at drroto.com. All right, let's talk a little waiver wire, all right? And of course, if you have questions about the waiver wire, just chime in here. I'll be happy to answer your question. I want to talk about Mike Boone. I want to talk about the Denver Broncos, okay? So I am intimately familiar with Mike Boone. I told Pilar last night, I won $1,500 on a Mike Boone when he scored 2 touchdowns. All right, he had 2 rushing touchdowns. I hit it. Boom. So I know Mike Boone very well. He's okay. He's an okay player. Is he special? No. He's a Jag. He's a 3rd running back. Will he be okay because there's an opportunity? Maybe. He has a little juice. Melvin Gordon, to me, has no juice. Melvin Gordon is done. They bring in Lat Murray, who's 32 years old, who's not special either. Mike Boone does have, when I say juice, it means he can get away from a tackler. Melvin Gordon finds a tackler. Lat Murray literally looks for a tackler. Tries to drag him for 5 yards. When you're in waivers, especially in high stakes, Mike Boone is going to be the flavor of week 5. And I think so. Let me tell you how I bid on Mike Boone. I will find a number that I'm comfortable with. Most likely going to be in that $100 to $200 range. So let's just, for argument's sake, call it $150. Okay. I say to myself the following. I look at my team. Do I need Mike Boone? If I don't need Mike Boone, I put a bid in for like $90. So I'm making sure that somebody gets him for $100 because I'm not letting Mike Boone go for $1. That's for sure. If I really, really need Mike Boone, I may go up in the 200 or 300 range, depending on how desperate I am. I never want to be a desperate fantasy player. I was a little desperate today in one of my home leagues. I'll tell you about that later. And it's never good to be desperate. You make mistakes. You make mistakes. So if Mike Boone, I put 150, I probably know I'm not getting him, but I know I'm making somebody pay 151 or more. Ideally, I will check tomorrow at 10:01, and ideally people are spending $600 to $900 on Mike Boone. That would make me happy because I think he's an okay player. I don't think he's worth $600. I don't know whether anybody's worth $600 because this is a long season. I'm in for the long haul. I'm in for the end because I assume I'm going to be there at the end. You start putting $600 down on Mike Boone, where are you week 11? You got $5 and I've got $600. I need to find the Mike Boone in week 11 who's going to help me get to the finish line. I'm in the starting line right here. So I have Javonte in a couple of teams. I did not bid crazily on Mike Boone because I really believe the following is going to happen. I think you've got the dreaded 3-headed Hydra. Gordon, Murray, Boone. Doesn't help me. Now, if you told me that Mike Boone was going to be a 25 touch guy, now we've got a different conversation going. Now, all of a sudden, I'm happy to bid on Mike Boone. But I don't see that. I see Melvin Gordon getting about 15 touches. I see Mike Boone getting 8 to 12. I see Latavius Murray getting 5 to 8. It's too many, not enough. I'll give you $10 per touch. So there you go, 120. Maybe if I'm a little generous, I'll go 150. You want to bid 151, he's yours. That's my thoughts on Mike Boone. Could I be wrong? Absolutely. But I'd rather be wrong elsewhere. So let me go through some names with you, okay? Let's start at quarterback. Geno Smith is going to be widely bid on. Is he worth it? Well, he's not going to play the Lions every week. He's not playing the Lions every week. He's going to be playing the Saints this week, who have a really good defense. So I don't think I want to be in on Geno Smith spending $100. 5, 10, 20? Sure. More than that, I don't want to do that. Now, when I say 5, 10, or 20, that's assuming it's a $1,000 league. If it's a $100 league, $4, $3. He's fine. He's not playing the Lions every week. He's going to play the Cardinals, who stink, the 49ers, who do not stink, and the Rams, who I'm not sure if they stink. So that's a very mid-division. Everybody's 2-2. 2-2, 2-2, 2-2. I don't know about that, guys. I'm just telling you, I don't know how I feel. I feel like don't overspend on Geno. Teddy B. Teddy B is interesting because I kind of hate the player, but I like the players around him. I'd really like to see this third string guy, Skylar Thompson, play. I think he's got some upside there. But Teddy B, to me, is 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think you're going to see more Raheem Mostert. You're going to see more Chase Edmonds. I think you lose the explosivity of Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. You lose that because Tua's got one of those arms that could be there. Teddy B doesn't go deep. He went to the Jacoby Brissett school of, safety. Spy007 says Damian Williams is available in high stakes leagues. How much of your fab would you bid on him? 30, 35, 40. I don't know how good he is. He's not making the difference. So think of it this way. Where does Damian Williams put you on this continuum? Are you winning? No. So if he just moves you this much, it's only worth that much. If it's going to move you that much, now I'm going to pay more. Where does he move you on this, right? Mike Boone is here. Damian Williams is here. So $30. Take a shot. All right. I like Kenny Pickett. I told you I like Kenny Pickett. He's going to struggle. He may struggle this week against the Bills. He may have 4 interceptions this week against the Bills. He may. But he could have 260 yards and 2 touchdowns. So let's just say, for argument's sake, he has 260 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. That's 13 points plus 8 is 21. And even if it's minus 2 in your league, so, you're still looking at 13 points. And if it's only minus 4 in your league, you're looking at 17 points. And maybe he gets a couple of rushing yards. I don't think Kenny Pickett's going to kill you. And that's against the Bills, by the way. That's against the Bills. So we'll have to see about that. Zach Wilson. So that I think very, very highly of Trevor Hillstrom. Trevor Hillstrom is a very smart guy in our industry. He's one of those underrated guys that people don't know about, and he works over at drroto.com. I've got a lot of guys on my site who are just really good players, but they haven't been discovered yet. Let me tell you something. I'm discovering these guys. They're fantastic. Trevor is a fantastic player. Really is. Great at baseball, great at football. And Trevor's high on Zach Wilson. And you know who else is high on Zach Wilson? My man, Jason Braddock. Jason Braddock loved Zach Wilson coming out. Let me tell you what I saw about Zach Wilson last week. He won the game. He won the game. And for just a millisecond, I said to myself, the Jets may be onto something here. Breece Hall looked good. Zach Wilson looked good. Elijah Moore played well. Now let's get Garrett Wilson into this mix here like he was when Joe Flacco was the quarterback. I'm okay with Zach Wilson. I think that there's upside there. So look, let's talk about this with waiver wire. Is Geno Smith better than Zach Wilson? Most likely the answer is yes. Geno Smith has looked very good this year. I take nothing away from him. Would I rather pay $100 for Geno Smith or $10 for Zach Wilson? Give me $10 for Zach Wilson because I could use the 90 later on. I can use the 90 later on. That's why I would do it. Is Geno Smith marginally better? I think he is marginally better. But is he $90 better? I don't know about that because you're talking about 9%. I don't know if it is worth 9%. All right, and I'll throw out Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones may be the Giants' number 2 running back. Brian Dable has shown you the following. Let me just say this to Giant fans out there. You have to be thrilled right now. You have to be thrilled. The Giants are 3-1. Kadarius Toney hasn't seen the field. Wan'Dale Robinson hasn't seen the field. By the way, I like Wan'Dale Robinson in high-stakes leagues. If he's out there, you go get him. You go get him. But they're 3-1, and Daniel Jones is running naked bootlegs. And they're handing it to Saquon. You can't throw to Galladay because he stinks. You can't throw to Sills because he stinks. You can't throw to Richie James because he's not that good either. And Daniel Bellinger's a rookie tight end. So they're really doing it with 1.5 players and really good coaching. You give Brian Dable a quarterback, what's this dude going to do? Might look a lot like what he did in Buffalo. So I got my eyes peeled on that team. Giants look good. All right. There's some other names in running backs I want to talk about for waiver wire. I think Brian Robinson is a name right now that you have to be circling on your waiver wire if he's out there. Now, in high stakes leagues, I doubt he's out there, but in some home leagues, he might be. And if he's out there, you pick him up. Antonio Gibson is very overrated. Very overrated. My man Truck says, I have Brian Robinson, Algier, and Wan'Dale on my bench and the GST with Ken Walker III. Don't think I'll use my fab. I wouldn't touch your fab, Truck. I wouldn't touch your fab. I love Robinson. They hate Antonio Gibson. McKissick is a third down back. Robinson's great. I'll get to Algier. I will get to Wan'Dale. I like what he's got going on there, dude. Don't touch it, Truck. Don't touch it. Who do I like the rest of the season? Spy says Zach Wilson or Mariota. Zach Wilson. And here's why. I played Mariota. Usually in DFS, I play 3 lineups a week. And sadly, I played Mariota this past week. To tell you how good my teams were, I put up like 130 something on FanDuel with Mariota and Drake London. I had Hawkinson, I had Penny, I had the Jags defense. But here's my thoughts about Mariota. I know the Falcons are 2-2 now. When they're 4-7, do you not think that Desmond Ridder might get out there? See, Zach Wilson's going to play. Mariota, you're always in fear of, is Mariota the next Mitch Trubisky? The guy, when he at halftime doesn't play well, are you worried that Arthur Smith is going to say, hey, Desmond, start warming up? Zach Wilson's playing unless he gets injured. Joe Flacco is 40 years old. He's not the future of your franchise. Zach Wilson's the future of your franchise. So that's why, for me, it's Zach Wilson over Marcus Mariota. I like Brian Robinson. You pick him up. We talked about Boone and Lat Murray. So here's a guy that should not be out there in any league, but if he is, let me just share this with you. Every year, I usually have one guy who ends up on all my teams. Now, my man Truck, who was listening before, stole my guy a couple of years ago because I had Patrick Mahomes in every league a few years ago. It was my best year, one of my best years in fantasy ever. Won almost every league, except the league I was in with Truck, who took Mahomes like literally the pick before me. My guy this year, shockingly enough, Rachaad White. Freaking love him. I'm telling you, I love this kid. If you can make a trade for him, trade for him. It's not that I don't like Leonard Fournette, but if Leonard Fournette is out for any period of time, I want you to think of Rachaad White as Khalil Herbert. What does Khalil Herbert do when Montgomery's not there? He outshines him. He outshines Montgomery because when you watch these two guys run, Montgomery's got no juice while Herbert hits that hole. I mean, it's not even close. It's not even close. So I love White. He's playing by the goal line. He's got really smooth hands out of the backfield. And Byron Leftwich knows that this guy's got ability. So I'm a fan of Rashad White. I am. Heavy T says Ritter should be starting now since Mariota can't complete passes more than 7 passes. Yeah, one time the Falcons ran it 14 times in a row. I don't disagree with you, Heavy T. I'm watching this. I'm told you, I started Mariota in one team. It was painful. It was like they didn't want him to throw. You can't have a guy in the NFL that way. You can't win in the NFL that way. Just can't. So, all right, we're going to take a timeout. When we come back, I got a guy for you. He should be a guy that's probably, I'm going to say maybe 50% he's available in your league. But if he is, you go get him, and you get him quickly. I'll be back right after this.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com.
What about Zach Ertz, though, when Hopkins comes back, thinking about it long term? Do you think
you to play the guy? I mean, the tight end position is so bad. I mean, I think this week, I got to start ranking guys like Ertz ahead of Kyle Pitts. I mean,
wow.
What do you mean, wow?
Because
what has Kyle Pitts done to continue to rank him in the top 5?
No, you're right. It's interesting, man, that he just has not come through. And I'm wondering, I mean, he had the 1 week he did, but I'm wondering if they're going to get right at all. And I'm not saying you're wrong by any stretch. He hasn't been good.
I mean, Parker Heath, the tight end for Atlanta, played more snaps than him. Yeah. Pitts ran 12 routes. Heath ran 6. Pitts had 4 targets. They're not throwing the football enough either. That's the problem. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm sure people don't have Pitts and Ertz anyway. Like, it's to the point with Pitts right now where you do have to consider another tight end over it. I'm not saying Cole Kmet, but if you have Njoku and Pitts, is it really outlandish to play Njoku over Pitts right now?
No.
If you don't have Kyle Pitts or you don't follow this stuff, you don't realize how bad he's been. And I only have Kyle Pitts in a best ball, in an FFPC best ball. So it's not like whatever. And I just looked at that roster. I'm like, oh, my backup is Albert Elf. Looks like I'm in trouble. And look, it should get better for him. But the guy has 10 receptions for 150 yards. No touchdowns. Here are his game logs: 2 for 19, 2 for 19, 5 for 87, 1 for 25. I mean, this is just pathetic at this point. And people have spent the 3rd round pick on it. There's probably not much you can do. I think people are like, well, I drafted him, I got to use him. You don't have to, man. You really don't. Right. If you have David Njoku, I might play him over Pitts right now. I know it sounds crazy, but we've seen 4 weeks of this garbage.
Yeah, and even a decent matchup against Tampa for him, it's the quarterback. That's the problem. It's the quarterback. We talked about this.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Drake London yesterday. Drake London is a hell of a talent. Mm-hmm. They completed 7 passes, and they won, which is the worst part. Somehow this team is 2-2.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com. On call with Dr. Roto on Bettor Sports Network.
Who has a better voice than Nando DeFee? Dude's awesome. All right, the show is awesome with Corey Parson. All right, Isani says, if Taylor is out, would you play Hines? Is he even worth it? Yeah, I would play him. I don't love him. I think you're going to see a little Deion Jackson. I think you're going to see a little Philip Lindsay. I think you'll see Hines. The problem with Hines is this. He's not a big guy. So he's not a 20-touch guy. Could he be 20 touch for 1 week? Maybe. But Denver's a pretty good defense. Not a great defense. They weren't great against Josh Jacobs. But the kind of guy that beats Denver's defense is a Josh Jacobs, a guy who just, rams right into them. As opposed to Hines, who's like a scat guy. So I don't know, man. Josie Jewell will be all over Hines. In a 10 team, I think you could do better. In a 10 team, I think you could do better. And I'm going to give you a guy right now who will be better. I will give you a guy right now who I expect to be better. Tyler Algier. This is a guy who preseason I had in a lot of my high stakes leagues. In my best ball leagues, man. If you see my underdog leagues, I've got Algier. I got Damian Pierce. I did it all from rounds 10 through 12. It was like literally cherry picking. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Algier is good in a half-point PPR league because he's not a natural ball catcher, but he's really good on first and second down. And as we see, Arthur Smith doesn't trust Marcus Mariota. He's got to run the football. And with Cordell Patterson there, I think a lot of people are going to spend money on Caleb Huntley, who looked okay, but he's not Tyler Algier. So is Tyler Algier the second coming? No. But comparatively, what's out there, he's good. Isan, give me some more names who's out there, and I'll let you know. I mean, Hines is okay because you believe he's going to play because Jonathan Taylor is not going to play, right? We know that. So that's why he's worth it. All right, I do have Philip Lindsay, $1. $1 on waiver wire. Maybe you get lucky. Maybe you play him. Might be worth it. Okay? Gus the Bus. Gus Edwards. Going to be back soon. John Harbaugh has a soft spot for Gus. He's going to get carries. He always does. Now, Gus Edwards hurts J.K. Dobbins, in my opinion, because Dobbins loses touches when Gus Edwards gets them. Justice Hill, poo-poo. Smelly poo-poo. Get rid of him. Isaiah Pacheco. If you watch that game against the Buccaneers, Pacheco looked pretty good to me. He looked pretty good to me. So I would tell you, let's keep your eyeballs on Pacheco. I liked it. I like him. I'm just not a Clyde Edwards-Helaire guy. And this is coming from a guy who's taking Clyde Edwards-Helaire every year. But every year I take him, this guy always gets hurt. The 1 year I don't take him, he's doing a great job. But I worry about him. And I think that if he takes a step back, Pacheco takes a step up, and that's all it needs. And if that happens, Pacheco's going to be pretty darn good. Tyron Davis-Price, nothing like a stash. I wouldn't mind stashing him. Now, that's a guy in a high-stakes league to you. I would go stash for nothing, right? So when everybody's out there, maybe somebody dropped him. I'm cool with that. $5. Stash him. Maybe all of a sudden, week 10, Jeff Wilson sprains his ankle, and I got Davis-Price, who looked pretty good in that game before he got hurt. See, in high stakes, you've got to be 2 to 3 weeks ahead of your competition. Anybody that's why Rachaad White is not available in anything but a home league. Because high stakes players, we've taken this guy before, in round 9. That's what we do. Right? So Brian Robinson's not available. Algier's not available. Lat Murray's available. Philip Lindsay's available. Maybe Gus the Bus is available. So you got to be proactive in a high stakes league. In a home league, you can take advantage of these things. Anybody who has Rachaad White available in their home league, what are you doing? Go get him. Yeah, so Spy says, wait, price is available. I'm on it. Don't go crazy. $10. Maybe 15 if you really want him. Probably no. Now, the closer he gets to being healthy, the more expensive he gets. You get him today, you get him for nothing. I picked up Geno Smith last week in my silver bullet. I think I paid $2 for him. $2. How much do you think he'd go for this week? 80 to 100. Got to be 1 week ahead. That's how you do it. All right, so in Hassan, Boone, White, Huntley, Murray, Pacheco. Here's how we're ordering it. You get White firstly. You get Boone secondly. You get Pacheco third. You get Huntley and Murray, whatever. That's what you do. You're upset that you didn't get him. But I go White, Boone, Pacheco. White because I love the kid. Boone because he's going to be in a three-way, a committee there. And the same thing with Pacheco. See? So I love this. I love the Better Sports Network. How interactive is this? How interactive is this? You ask questions, I give you answers. I do like talking to people, though. So feel free to call in. All right, wide receivers. So somebody got on me on Twitter today and said, hey, Doc, how come when you write your waiver wire articles, you haven't mentioned George Pickens? Well, I haven't mentioned George Pickens because I figured he's drafted in everybody's league. So let me do a public service announcement here. If George Pickens is available in your league, please pick him up. Thank you very much. I like Zay Jones. Okay, so why do I like Zay Jones this week? He didn't play last week. Now you're getting him for reduced price. Is Zay Jones great? No. But you know who likes him? Trevor Lawrence likes him. So it's Kirk 1, Zay Jones 2, Marvin Jones 3, Evan Ingram 4. The offense looks much better. Could Zay Jones not get 800 yards receiving and 5-6 touchdowns? It's possible. Michael Gallup, worth your attention, especially with Dak Prescott, probably about 2 weeks away. I'm going to give you a guy. I'm giving you a guy right now. This is a guy who, do you know when you go out and you can just smell it in the air and you just know the rain's going to come? Or you look at the clouds and you say, it's going to be a storm. I feel that with Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce, it's getting close. Starting to percolate. Dude was hurt, comes back. Last 2 weeks, he's been the absolute and unquestioned wide receiver 2 for the Colts. It's not even close. And the way the Colts have been playing, Matt Ryan's been chucking it. Alec Pierce is interesting to me. Now, I know that Granson and Mo Alley Cox and all these guys have scored touchdowns, but Pierce is going to get those plays eventually. So if he's out there in your league, scoop him up. Josh Reynolds, I believe, is a 1-week wonder. And I tell you this, first of all, don't go crazy on Lions. Why? For the following reasons. 1, they're off week 6. 2, St. Brown's probably back and Chark's probably back. And oh, by the way, Jamison Williams is probably coming back. So if you go get Josh Williams, it's a 1-week rental. That said, Spy 07, for example, he's a kind of guy, if he's available in a league, you go get him. Because if you're 0-4 and you're desperate and need points. But remember this, just know this, they're playing the Patriots and then he's off next week. So what is his value? Josh Reynolds' value to me, quite honestly, $30. Not spending $1 more. Why? Because I don't love the matchup this week. I don't love it. And then next week he's not playing. And by week 7, it's St. Brown and Chark back in the lineup and Jamison Williams not far behind. So what did I spend it on? I wasted $30. Josh Palmer is probably not out there in your league, but if he is, you get him now. You get him now. I don't like the matchup this week. Bad matchup this week, but like the player. My boy, Wan'Dale Robinson. Brian Dable went and got this guy. He and Shane like this guy. He will be used like Isaiah McKenzie. We just need to see him on the field. But when he gets on the field, he will be the Giants' best receiver. Now, that said, Kadarius Toney's the best receiver, but they just don't like this guy. I don't care what they tell you. They hate him. Now, this was not surprising to me as a person who roots for the Giants. I could have told you this guy's always hurt, but he's twitchy. But you don't give up Micah Parsons to get Kadarius Toney in a first-round pick. Yeah. Rondale Moore, interesting to me. Rondale Moore, interesting. The only problem is this. When DeAndre Hopkins is back, DeAndre Hopkins 1, Hollywood Brown 2, Zach Ertz 3, Rondale Moore 4. That's my issue. That's my issue. Sky Moore, I like. I think somebody's got to have to emerge for the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think it's going to be Sky Moore because Juju's good in his zone coverage. Valdez-Scantling stinks. Mecole Hardman stinks. I'm like this close to cutting this guy. Would I play Kareem Hunt in a flex? I would. Certain weeks are Kareem Hunt weeks and certain weeks are not. That said, the Chargers have a bad run defense. And it's especially bad without Joey Bosa. So look at what Dameon Pierce did last week. Dameon Pierce went off against the Chargers. So Chubb will do well. Now, if Chubb trips on the 5-yard line, could Kareem Hunt come in and steal some touchdowns? He could. And Brissett is not throwing the ball against that Charger defense. No, he is not doing it. That game's at home. They're going to run the ball. They're going to try to keep Justin Herbert off the field. It's going to be a lower scoring game. I don't love this game for fantasy purposes. Eckler, was great last week. Last week was last week. Obviously you're playing Eckler, but I don't think this is a big week for Eckler. I don't see the big week for Eckler. but I do like Sky Moore. All right, a few more names before I take a quick break. Tight ends. Tyler Conklin, sure. Guy's been good. I think the Jets did a good pickup there. Been very happy with him. Robert Tonyan. Aaron Rodgers loves Robert Tonyan. Loves him. So if Aaron loves him, I love him. By the way, the Packers are 3-1. They look like they're going through the motions. I like Conklin more than Tonyan because Conklin will be more a part of the passing game and the Jets will be behind a lot, so they'll throw more. Aaron Rodgers, they don't run as many plays, and he's got, Tanyan's not getting 8 or 9 targets a game. Hayden Hurst is interesting to me. I mean, he plays on a team that throws the ball, so he's in play every week. 4 for 40. He's 8 to 10 points a week. Two guys here that I'm not big fans of. Mo Alley Cox, you're chasing last week's points. I never like chasing last week's points. I like finding this week's points. And Will Dissly. I mean, you're really chasing last week's points with Will Dissly. So if you're going to bid on them in waivers, a couple of dollars, $1. Maybe I bid nothing and hope to get him for nothing on waivers. All right. I'm going to take a timeout. When we come back, I made a desperate trade today. I want to talk to you about it because it's something that I did, which I felt I had to do. And if you're in the same position I was, we'll walk you through it. We'll cover it when I come back right after this.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com.
I think it's hard to judge Daniel Jones. He's got no offensive line and he's got no weapons. So, he still made a couple of bad decisions this year, but it's really hard to judge him. And that's the difficult part for the Giants. They have to figure out if he's the guy. How can you make that assessment when he's throwing a Kenny Golladay who can't catch anything?
Jones in a shotgun set. Back to throw. Has time. Fastball to the right side. Golladay makes the catch, but then he fell down and he never controlled it. It's incomplete. He tried to run away from the defender and he dropped it.
I mean, Richie J. Look at this. It is bad. They really need Wan'Dale Robinson and Kadarius Toney out there. And even then, that's still not enough. And I believe Daniel Jones is the most pressured quarterback in football. And it's going to be hard for him to have success.
Corey Nando and Friends, presented by Mayo Media.
What can we say about 5 more passes batted at the line by Baker Mayfield? That's 12 for the season. I've never seen anything like this. Last year's leader had 17 for the entire season. Mayfield's on pace for 51, and the Panthers barely throw.
Thank you. They barely throw. They don't make no explosive plays. They can't do nothing offensively. But when you look at this team, they ran 51 plays yesterday. They had 220 total yards. They ran the ball for 40 yards. They threw the ball for 180. On the throws, it was under 5 yards a pass. They are using their short passing game as a running game, but it ain't going nowhere. There's no explosive plays from anybody. Baker Mayfield's a dog. And that was just a terrible display of football. There was a reason to boo. There's a reason to be calling for Rule's job. There's a reason to want everybody out in Carolina because that thing is pitiful.
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray, presented by FantasyGuru.com.
We are hearing reports, Ray, that people felt this was so unfair and so dastardly that people are changing rules and allowing folks to remove Kamara from their starting lineup. You cannot break this rule. This is lousy, Ray, and I hate the precedent that some people are setting with this.
Later on, the commissioner said, oh, yeah, sorry, you didn't get up at 6 a.m. today. We'll allow you to make a switch. Sorry. If you're mad at something here, you don't get mad at your league, you don't get mad at the rules, you don't get mad at your commissioner, you get mad at the bloody NFL, who I have said all along, what are we doing here? Why are we trying to take over the world?
It's just bad luck, Ray. This happens a lot, doesn't it? It just doesn't happen with the likes of Alvin Kamara. You got to be awake when the actives and inactives come out.
But again, if you want to lay blame, it's the NFL. Why is the NFL playing games that the majority of the people in the United States aren't even awake for? What are they doing? Isn't it our league? North America's league, or is it Europe's league? So if you're mad at someone, you're mad at the NFL.
The doctor is in. Get your prescription to win fantasy sports and betting on Bettor Sports Network.
All right, we are back here on Call with Dr. Roto. Heavy T says Tua is my starter, and I have no other quarterback in my roster. The top quarterbacks available are Teddy B, Wentz, Geno, and Zach Wilson. You pick up Geno. I think. I mean, he deserves your waiver wire pickup. I think my second choice is Teddy B because I just like Mike McDaniel, like the offense. I don't think he has a ceiling, but I don't like the ceiling, but the floor is good. High floor, low ceiling. And he's more reliable than Wentz and Zach Wilson. So I'll go Geno 1, Teddy 2, Wilson 3, Wentz 4. Okay. All right. So remember, coming up in about 15 minutes, I've got Jesse Morse coming on to talk about injuries. And then later on in hour number 2, I've got Jason Braddock to break down some of the teams and the games and the players that we love. But now I want to tell you about a trade that I made. And I'm doing this not talking about my team. No, I'm talking about you. Okay. In my home league, where I have been the commissioner since 2003. So we're coming on to our 20th year. I had a really good team. I had DeAndre Swift and I had Javonte Williams. So I had some issues. I had Rachaad White as a backup. I had Benjamin as a backup. I had Jerick McKinnon as a backup. So it's a salary cap draft league. I also had Kyle Pitts and DJ Moore. 2 guys who were severely underproducing for my team. And I did something that I didn't want to do. I dealt out of desperation. So what was my trade? I traded Kyle Pitts. I traded DJ Moore, and I traded Jerick McKinnon. I got back James Conner, Brandon Cooks, and Devin Singletary. Am I happy with this trade? Well, look, here's how I rationalize it. Cooks and Moore are pretty close. I'd rather Cooks than Moore right now because I can't watch Baker Mayfield. So I think I win there. Is it a big win? No. Is it a small win? Yes. So then my trade is James Conner and Devin Singletary for Kyle Pitts. Luckily on my team, I have Hayden Hurst and Dawson Knox. And I made the trade. Did I give up the best player? Yes, I did. I gave up the best player in Kyle Pitts. But I was desperate. I don't love Conner and I don't love Singletary. I don't love these guys. I don't. But I need these guys because I can't win my league with Rachaad White and Benjamin and J.D. McKissick and guys like that. I can't win that way. Now, I could win if Rachaad White if Leonard Fournette gets injured. Then I could win. So I had to take a piece that I valued and trade it for multiple players. And I traded it to a team who had Mike Gesicki as his tight end. So he wanted Pitts. He had Miles Sanders. He had Fournette. He had Singletary. He had a lot of guys. So let me talk to you about when you make a trade with somebody. I took my strength and traded it to a team who had that weakness. I traded it to a team who had running back as a strength because that was my weakness. It was a fair trade. Now, of course, I asked him for Miles Sanders. Of course, I asked him for Leonard Fournette. That's my job. My job is to ask for those guys. And of course, his job is to ask for, guys back like Devin Duvernay and guys who have upside. Right? Instead of, Jerick McKinnon, who's going nowhere. But we ended up coming to a fair deal. It's not the deal I woke up wanting to make. I didn't know that Javonte Williams was going to get injured and be out for the season. I didn't know that DeAndre Swift is definitely going to miss the next 2 weeks. I'm going to put myself in a hole if I don't have guys out there. Do I love Conner and Singletary? No. Can I get 20 points a week out of them? Yes. But more importantly is this. Kyle Pitts has been a bust. Kyle Pitts has been a bust. And it's not Kyle Pitts' fault. It's Mariota's fault. Now, I think we were all wrong on Mariota in this one way, because I know I came up probably on the Better Sports Network, and I said, well, Delaney Walker had his best year when Marcus Mariota was quarterback, and Delaney Walker was a star with the Titans. So A equals B, and let go pick up Kyle Pitts. Hasn't worked that way. Even when Kyle Pitts had a good week, it wasn't so good. Now, Drake London has been good. That guy has been good. Right? That guy has been special. You put Drake London with Calvin Ridley, with Tyler Algier, with Cordell Patterson, with Kyle Pitts, now you're onto something. You're onto something. Spy says, would I place a bid on Alec Pierce and drop Aguilar or Van Jefferson? All day, right now. And I would absolutely do that. I would cut Van Jefferson like yesterday's newspaper. And I would bid even more than $11 on Alec Pierce. I'd probably bid like 21. I wouldn't want anybody taking him. Isani said, I'm dropping the Rams defense. Who should I pick? The Vikings, Broncos, Dolphins, or Titans? If I'm not mistaken, the Vikings are playing the Bears. So I'm taking the Vikings, especially the Vikings are playing them at home. That's pretty good. Broncos, Indianapolis, probably not. Dolphins, Jets, maybe not. So I'll go Vikings there. But the Vikings are exasperating. They're an exasperating team. Really annoying. Seriously, from one to annoying, the Vikings are annoying. I was in on Kirk Cousins this year. Man, this guy's annoying. Uncle Buck, I'm 0-4. Have you ever dropped your whole team? No, Uncle Buck, but I did see your movie. I watched it recently before this whole hurricane. It's a very good movie. It's one of those movies that I got to be honest with you. I'm sure we all have them. And please, type in your favorite movies. I can watch Scarface literally every night it's on. I can watch Goodfellas all the time. I can watch Uncle Buck all the time. I can. Heavy T, John Candy, Super Bowl legend. Most underrated film John Candy was ever in. What is the most underrated film John Candy was ever in? I will tell you my answer to this question. My answer? Splash, where he played the brother. He didn't have the biggest part, but he was funny. Dude's always funny. Look at Summer Rental. Summer Rental is a good one. Summer Rental is a very good one. Well, Stripes, come on. Yeah. Stripes is a classic, right? What was the line? If it's Italy, you have to make my bed. If we were in France, make your bed. I actually think Casino is the most underrated mob movie. Can I admit this on here? I have not seen Casino. I need to see Casino. So I will watch it. Wasn't that Michael Mann directed that? It was like 2 hours and 45 minutes, but I definitely need to see Casino. But it's one of those things. I mean, can't every guy just watch mob movies all night? But I mean, I can watch Scarface literally every night. It's crazy. Same thing with Goodfellas, Godfather. All those movies are fantastic. Oh, John Candy was the owner of the Argos in the Canadian Football League, the Toronto Argonauts. Look at that. Did I ever tell you this, by the way? That I know a guy from the Argonauts. I used to know their coach. Went to my college. Great guy. What do you do with Derek Carr? You have to be patient with Derek Carr. You have to be patient with Derek Carr, Uncle Buck. They're throwing the ball. Carr's just looked off. But remember, Carr doesn't have Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow is like the glue. I know there's Adams. I know there's Mac Hollins, who's been pretty good. I know there's Waller. But think of when you used to play football. Think of when you play football. Didn't you always look for that one guy, if you were ever the quarterback, your guy? I believe Hunter Renfrow is Derek Carr's guy, and when he's not there, it's not the same. So I just wait on Carr. Glory Road might be the most underrated sports movie. Glory Road is a really good movie. It's a really good movie. Good call on that one. Yeah. So Chuck, of course, talks about when he goes into the school. I love that scene. You got to, Doc, my favorite of all mob movies. Yes, even more than Godfather and Goodfellas. All right, then Casino's on the list. It will be on the list if it's on. Is it on Prime or Netflix? Just let me know. And now that I have power back, I certainly will be watching Casino. Just let me know where it is, Spy 07. But John Candy was a sensational actor, and just makes you laugh. Certain guys you watch make you laugh. There's certain things that we do that certain people that we watch that make us laugh, that take us away from where we are at that moment. Football does that. Football does that. No matter how crappy things are going on, when you're watching a football game, you're locked in, and then all the crap comes back after the game is over. It's kind of interesting how that happens. Uncle Buck said he's in my NFC league. I'm in a few of them, dude. He owned Javante in that league. I'm sorry. I love Javante this year. I'm going to take a quick timeout. When I come back, Dr. Jesse Morse is joining me. Dr. Morse knows the injuries. He treats the players. I got a list of guys I got to get through with him. There's at least, 8 or 9 names. And we'll talk to Dr. Morse about him right after this.
Make bets and follow your fantasy team while you buy, sell, and trade collectibles in real time. Only on Bettor Sports Network.
Surely, kickers never retire, I think. They just continue playing for all eternity. Like, there's only ever been 30 NFL kickers.
Yeah, they're always readily available too, it seems. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they just get called up. They're like, you kicked for us 10 years ago, right? Why don't you
run it back? Let's
I imagine every single kicker
that
that gets the call is on a high school football field somewhere just practicing field goals after hours. Like it's like 9 p.m. and they're out there just the local high school kicking field goals, and the phone rings. They get a call and they're like, yeah, I'm ready. I've been practicing for this.
I have an amazing kicker story if you guys have a second.
I got a couple.
The number one all-time field goal kicker is Adam Vinatieri. The next 2 guys are Morton and Gary Anderson, right? Gary Anderson was a dude from like South Africa that just played rugby and soccer. He just could absolutely boot the ball, right? They bring him over and he does like a tryout and he's just absolutely crushing the ball. And all these colleges are like, dude, we want you to come kick field goals for us. And he goes, I don't even want to play football. He goes, I want to play soccer. He goes, I want to play soccer. He goes, so if I can come to your school and play soccer, I'll also, in the fall, I'll kick for the football team. And Syracuse was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, you're on the soccer team. Like, come on. And he went to Syracuse to play soccer, but also kick field goals. And then he ended up being a top 3 point scorer in the NFL all the time.
That's ridiculous.
And his answer to recruiters was, I don't want to play football. I'll do it in my spare time.
Yeah. He's like, you got a spot for me on the soccer team. Syracuse is like, yeah, we got a spot for you.
We don't even care about our soccer team.
We don't even care.
We can totally have that spot.
Right? They had to like cobble together a soccer team.
Oh my god, it's like Accepted, the movie, but they just like had to throw together a whole fake soccer team.
Somehow they still got Justin Long.
Right, yeah. Like, Adam Sandler's the coach. And dude, it's imagine they win the national championship. That's a movie, dog. Yeah.
Boom!
Someone call up Disney. Yeah, we just wrote a movie for you, Disney. This has Disney sports movie written all over. I'm borderline crying right here just thinking about this movie right now.
Dude, the story gets even crazier. Like, I should have looked it up again, but like, it was like a high school coach that went and found him, and then that high school coach ended up being somebody crazy famous that like coached for the Rams.
Stay tuned for sports. Talk about your picks, your fantasy teams, and your sports collectibles on Bettor Sports Network. On Call with Dr. Roto on Bettor Sports Network.
All right, we're back. Dr. Roto here for hour number 2 of On Call with Dr. Roto. Dr. Jesse Morse will be joining us very, very soon. By the way, Spy07 said casinos on Amazon Prime. Thank you, my friend. I will be watching that certainly by a week from today. The movie will be finished. How about that? And then we can talk about that on air. We had a good first hour. We talked about waiver wire players. I told you to be careful with Mike Boone. I like Mike Boone, but let's not break the bank on Mike Boone. We talked about some of the players that we like. Geno Smith. We talked about Pickett, how Pickett is going to help all the Pittsburgh receivers. We talked about Rachaad White, how much I like him. Tyler Algier, how much we like him. A lot of good players out there. Alec Pierce, a guy who I think is going to find some touchdowns in his not too distant future. Donovan Peoples-Jones, that's another name of a guy I like. I think he's the Alec Pierce of the Cleveland Browns. And don't forget, this is a guy, if Deshaun Watson comes back, Donovan Peoples-Jones might be a very interesting person towards the end of the fantasy season. Let's see. Other players we discussed. Gus the Bus Edwards, Isaiah Pacheco, who I told you, Tyron Davis-Price, just a name to stash away. All right, till Dr. Morse gets here, let's talk about some other things. We talked a little bit about the Giants, who are 3-1. We talked a little bit about the Steelers having to make the switch. What about the Eagles? Are we surprised by the Eagles? I don't think we should be. In fact, my son will tell you that I told everybody out there that the Eagles were going to be the NFC team in the Super Bowl. I can't tell you they're going to win the Super Bowl, but I think they're built to win the Super Bowl. I think they're better than the Rams. I think they're better than the Bucks. I think the Eagles' defense is far better than people give it credit for. Adding Bradbury to go with Slay, big difference. This kid, Jordan Davis, is a horse in the middle of the field. Hassan Reddick just gets the quarterback. It's a very good defense. But Jalen Hurts is turning out to be a league winner. Jalen Hurts is turning out to be a league winner. Right now, if we had a draft over and I said to you, which quarterback do you want before your draft starts? You probably would tell me Josh Allen, and you'd be correct. And then I'd say to you, give me the next quarterback that you want. You probably would say to me one of two names. You probably would either tell me Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts. And those would be the right answers. Those would be the right answers. Do I like Patrick Mahomes? Absolutely. He's probably the fourth best quarterback out there right now in fantasy. Do I like Justin Herbert? I do. But he's not top three. Jackson and Hurts with their running ability, game changer. Let me ask you this question. I will ask you this question. Did Lamar Jackson have a bad week last week? I say he did. I say his week was not very good at all. He still had 19 fantasy points. Threw for 144 yards, threw a touchdown, and then he had 70 yards rushing. I mean, come on. The guy was awful, and he still was good. So what happens when Lamar is good and he goes for 250 yards passing or 300 yards passing and 4 touchdowns and 80 yards? You're like, kaboom. Same thing with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts was underwhelming last week. Underwhelming. But he still was pretty darn good. Running quarterbacks are separators. Josh Allen wasn't very good last week either. And yet he still put up a bunch of fantasy points. When immobile quarterbacks don't have good games, like Kirk Cousins, he's going to run for 1 yard. So if he doesn't go for 303, he's not very good. But here, let me do it this way. Lamar Jackson throws for 220 yards and 1 touchdown. It's 11 points and another 4 is 15. He runs for 70 yards. He got you 22. Right? Kirk Cousins has to go for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns to get to the same spot. He gets to 23. Lamar just was being Lamar. Cousins had a good game. 302, you're like, ooh, that's a good game. That's why running quarterbacks are game changers. That's why running quarterbacks are game changers. That's why they're league winners. Spy says, do you think with the edge, top quarterbacks having high stakes that a late quarterback draft strategy is on the way down? Oh, wow. Sorry to interrupt. Aaron Judge hit number 62. Wow. Congratulations. I love me some Aaron Judge. I think he's a class act, and I couldn't be any happier for him. I couldn't be. Okay. Could not be happier for Aaron Judge. That's just awesome. Getting back to Spy. No, in high stakes Spy, we don't like taking quarterbacks too early. So in the NFFC, round 3 for Josh Allen is as early as it gets. Lamar went in round 6 in most leagues. Kyler Murray went in 7. If Jalen Hurts is as good as he was, as he's been this year, then I think that Jalen Hurts becomes a round 3 or 4 pick next year. It's never going to be much higher than that because people know you got to build your receivers and you get yourself a couple of running backs. That's what's going to happen. So that's why in high stakes, the only thing that I see different in high stakes right now, if football ended tomorrow, I think you'd see most people draft wide receivers early. Wide receivers would be earlier, and people would not be on 2 running backs. People will not be taking Aaron Jones and Alvin Kamara with their first 2 picks. They wouldn't be taking Joe Mixon and Javonte Williams. They'd be taking 2 receivers. Carlo, welcome. My family's doing well. We're all safe. I appreciate you asking, my friend. Thank you so much. But I think that was big, right? So what I also like to do, and especially if you play in high stakes leagues, which many of you do, go back and look at your old drafts. Go back and look and see, would you have taken the same guys where you were picking? I did that recently with my Silver Bullet League. I looked at it and I said, you know what? I wouldn't have taken Amon-Ra St. Brown there because I think I had picked 10. And I think I took Saquon and I came back and took Kamara. I could have changed Kamara for sure. And then in round 3, I took, was it DJ Moore? Somebody disgusting like that. I don't think I would have taken Amon-Ra St. Brown there. Now, should I have? Yes. But would I have? No. I looked at Amon-Ra St. Brown as a 4th round pick, and he wasn't getting back to me at that point. He was going at the end of the 3rd, mid-4th. So depending on where you're picking, you just don't always have access to these guys. That's the problem. In some ways, it's why I always love salary cap leagues, because I can draft any guy that I want at any time. But in a league where it's serpentine, if I'm picking 11, what's the chance of I getting Justin Jefferson? 0. High chance I'm getting Saquon. High chance I'm getting Swift. High chance I'm getting Najee. High chance I'm getting Devontae Adams. But am I getting Justin Jefferson? No. Am I getting McCaffrey? No. Am I getting Jonathan Taylor? No. By the way, if we had a draft right now, how many of you would take Jonathan Taylor number 1? Any of you? I don't think so. Last year's best player is very, very, very rarely this year's best player. So when everybody at 1-1 was taking Jonathan Taylor, I was shying away from Jonathan Taylor. Now, maybe the answer is, yeah, Isan did, right? Maybe the answer, I took Justin Jefferson a bunch. I took McCaffrey a bunch. The problem with McCaffrey is I just didn't think that Baker Mayfield was so bad. All right, but we do have our guest here. His name is Dr. Jesse Morse, and I have it, my friend, Dr. Morse, I have it on true facts that you were not the independent consultant there with Tua.
No, thankfully I was not, because there's no way in hell he would have been back in that game.
Can I ask you a question? Do you think when he got hit in the first game that it was a back injury? Because when he got up, it didn't feel like a back. It felt like a head.
So he suffered what we call, or what it at least appeared to be, is what we call gross motor instability, which pretty much only comes from the cervical or brain region. So, and therefore, in my opinion, he sustained a concussion. And it wasn't a hard hit. Like, Milano hit him. Unfortunately, he kind of went down. And the only reason, in my opinion, he was concussed is because they're playing on turf. And his turf usually is concrete indirectly. So you hit your head and you have the kind of contra coup injury where the brain kind of goes back and forth and you have a concussion. And then he gets up and he looks like that drunk guy trying to leave the bar. Like, you know, he literally can't stand up. The guys are like holding him up. It was like, what the? In my opinion, the only way they cleared him was they used, I guess, the lack of a better word, loophole, where they said, you know, in their opinion, this may have been caused by a back injury. And as a result, in my medical opinion, I think he's able to return because it may not have been a concussion. And obviously, I disagree with that wholeheartedly. But there's a lot of variables in this because, first of all, that was a divisional game. That was a big game. And if he didn't return, they weren't winning that game, at least in my opinion, they were. And then the other thing is the concussion protocol is a minimum of 5 days. So if he rules that game out, that means he misses Thursday game 2.
So now, how many weeks is he missing at this point?
this is where it gets tricky because they already ruled him out this week. But even if he hypothetically clears the protocol in the next week or whatever, I think they're going to have some overshadowing to say, hey, are you rushing him back? And there's going to be a medical, political argument to say, hey, are you rushing him back or is he actually ready? So I don't know. Like this became more complicated than a traditional concussion because of the way it played out. So if you told me he missed a month, I'd be like, okay. If you told me he missed 2 weeks, I'm like, I can see it. Like it wouldn't surprise me. Do I think they shut him down for the rest of the year? Probably not. Is it possible that he misses the rest of the year? Yes, definitely.
All right. Jonathan Taylor, high ankle sprain. He's playing in a short week, so it feels like he's going to be out this week. But then after this week, he's got 10 days. Do we expect him in week 6? Do you feel confident that we see him in week 6?
So the initial video on this, so mind you, remember going into the game, he had a toe injury, but we didn't hear any clarity. Tom Pelissero yesterday confirmed that it was a turf toe. It was mild turf toe. He confirmed it with Ian Rappaport on one of their videos. So that we don't know which foot it was on. But so then he sustains this ankle injury. And I had 2 views of it and both were awful. There's people around him everywhere. You can't see which ankle it is. Like you can't see anything. So initially I thought it was his left ankle, which looked like a relatively classic high ankle sprain. But come to find out it's his right ankle. So, and we finally got clarity on that. I think it was late yesterday after I made that video. So is it a high ankle? Maybe not. Am I still concerned? Yes. The kid's never missed a practice in his entire life until last week. Like he knows how to take care of his body. I mean, it's crazy, but true. Would I put it past him to not only play in this game, but play in the next one? Nope, I wouldn't put it past him at all. Is he going to be effective? Probably not. Am I overall high on him? He doesn't catch enough passes. I expect a significant reduction in workload compared to last year. The team's not very good. There's enough variables to say you could probably find someone who believes in the upside and you can get maybe, Swift and Dalton Schultz for him or something like that, where you have a guy who's similar upside and you get another decent guy at maybe a value play or something. So see what you can get for him. Would I give him away? No. Would I give him away for like Mixon? Probably not. It's a lateral move, but this is a tricky one because is there a scenario where he plays and re-injures it and misses a month? Yes.
So you mentioned turf toe. Can you tell everybody out there what turf toe is and why it's so painful?
So the turf toe, the big toe, which is where a turf toe is the balance center for your foot. Without your big toe, you're going to struggle to even stand or just even function. Think of the big joint right before your nail, not the nail end, but the kind of that joint in between it. That is the joint where turf toe happens. That joint has a plate on the bottom of it. We call it plantar plate.
Is he back? You back? Okay. I was really wanting to know what turf toe was, but I think it's the joint that is right by that it gets inflamed. And so I guess every time you put your foot down, it throbs. So we'll have to find out about that. But interesting about Jonathan Taylor. Here's my question that I want to ask Dr. Morse when we get back as well. And maybe we should be thinking about this too. When a guy's never been injured, never missed a practice, never missed a game, his body is working on all levels. Now, for the first time in his career, he's in pain. What does that necessarily mean for a player? right? What does that mean? Because now he's never played like this before. Now, I know all players play in pain, but some guys are in pain every week. Dr. Morse, you back?
Yeah, sorry, I had a spam caller and it threw everything off.
They're not that interesting. We're way more interesting here at the Better Sports Network. So turf toe, here's the question. Every time you step down on it, does your toe throb? Is that why you're in so much pain?
Yeah. Even mild ones are awful. Whenever you think about when you put your foot down, you kind of crunch your toes and you pull. Well, it hurts to do that with turf toe because you have a significant inflammation at that joint. And then if it's a grade 2 or moderate one, it's partially torn. So the bottom of that joint is just super unstable and it's really painful. These true moderate grade 2s take about 20 to 25 days to heal.
Yikes. So Traylon Burks is not coming back anytime soon.
I would not be. We don't know if it's grade 1 or grade 2. I thought he might have fractured his foot, how miserable it looked. But I don't know if it's good news or bad news. But if it's a grade 1, then maybe he takes 2 weeks off. If it's grade 2, they should put him on IR and have him come back in a month rather than rushing him. If you remember, Devontae Adams from a couple of years ago missed like almost a month with turf toe.
Let me ask you a question. Rashad Bateman left the game with a midfoot sprain. When I hear midfoot sprain, I get very, very nervous about the dreaded midfoot sprain. Are they not using the word Lisfranc? What are they doing here? Is this a guy who's out now for 10 weeks? I mean, is Lamar Jackson going to lose Rashad Bateman?
That's a good question. So he left in a boot. I saw the photo, so I can confirm it. The question is, what's the severity of the midfoot sprain? If this is a grade 1, a mild one, then he got lucky and he maybe misses a week or 2. It's the conversion of 1 to 2 that is the big deal. That's where, in my opinion, Joe Mixon had a couple of years ago. Remember how he just suffered the injury, never came back? That's what I think happened. I think he had a 1. I think he re-injured it to either a 2 or a bad 1 again, and they just said, we're shutting him down. Chris Carson, on the other hand, last year or the year before, suffered a grade 1, and he missed, I think, a week, and he came back and he never re-injured it. So, and then we also heard Najee Harris had that initial injury in preseason. He missed about 3 weeks. And then he retweaked it in week 1, but he's been playing on it since. So the grade 1s, if you can stabilize them, they're okay. It's the grade 2s where there's significant damage to the ligament that cause more instability. Those are the ones that are really concerning.
All right, Alvin Kamara surprised a lot of people because a lot of people thought that he was going to play. And of course, the last minute on a 9:30 start, he's out with a rib injury. Were you shocked to see him out? I mean, when we say it's a rib injury, put on a flak thing and let's go, get out there. Or is it way more painful than that?
Oh, no, they're awful. It depends on where it is and depends on the severity. But even I hate the term mild, but mild injuries suck because the rib cartilage is very painful. That's where the nerves run. And if you have a rib fracture, every time you take a deep breath, your lungs expand, your rib cartilage expands, and your rib fracture starts to stab you. I mean, it just feels like you're getting stabbed. And then think about someone running a helmet into that rib. I don't care if you have a flak jacket, bulletproof jacket, whatever you want to call it. That hurts. I mean, that's just tough. And I think that if he didn't play the week before, he would have been fine for that game. I think he re-injured it in week 3, I guess that would have been. And as a result, that long flight, I think that's what happened to Jameis. That long flight, the lack of resources, the weather may be a little bit different there. And it just everything added up, and he couldn't get ready.
All right, let's talk about the Joneses at the quarterback. Daniel Jones and Mac Jones with ankle injuries. Mac Jones looks like he's going to be out for a significant amount of time. Daniel Jones, we don't know yet. I heard there's rumor that Dr. Jesse Morse might be flying up to New York to be starting for the Giants at quarterback. I don't know if there's any truth to that. What's your thoughts of these guys playing?
So Mac Jones tried to do something on Friday. You got to hand it to him. He at least tried. He literally stood in practice and threw the ball without moving. So as much as he wanted to go, he's just like, no way, I'm a sitting duck. That's a stupid idea. Daniel Jones, on the other hand, is a mobile quarterback who actually had a pretty good game, at least on the ground. But he also suffered it's probably more of I dare to use the term mild, but mild grade 1 high ankle. So, and that's why he was kind of able to get back in the game, at least in some capacity. Is there a chance he plays on Sunday? Yes, but you have to remember this game is also in London as well. So that kind of complicates things. If Tyrod's not cleared from his concussion, and when are they flying out? How does this play out? There's a lot of variables here. That's why they tried out a couple of different quarterbacks today, because I don't know if I'm going to have either of my guys.
That's why I asked if you were one of the guys. All right, so here's a quick question for you here. DeAndre Swift, we know he's missing week 5. They are on bye week 6. Give me a percentage of confidence that he's going to play week 7?
80%.
And then week 8, 100%?
As long as he does, yes. I feel like he has what we call a type 2 AC sprain, which is pretty much what he did last year on the other shoulder. He missed a month, but I think he got quote unquote lucky, and the timing of his bye is kind of perfect. So he didn't have to go on IR, and I think he can use that extra week and a half, whatever it is, to heal up. The schedule looks pretty good. I was really high on him coming into the year. We've seen what Jamal Williams can do. We've seen this offense be pretty good. So, I mean, they're getting Jamison Williams back. They should get Chark back. They got Amon Ra probably at the same time. So, I think he realistically could come back. He's kind of a buy low for me right now, if you can, quote unquote, buy him. I mean, he's obviously a little risky to buy him, but I think you could justify it given what we saw and their schedule and just maybe his cost.
All right, last question for you. We talked about Jonathan Taylor before, and you said very astutely, he's never been injured. This guy's never been injured. So when a player who's never been injured finally gets injured, do they know how to play with that pain? I mean, sometimes I could see him being like, I've never played in pain before. Now all of a sudden he plays worse because he doesn't know how to deal with it. Where most players, as you know very well, they play with pain every week.
So you can't be a NFL player and not have sustained an injury. It may have just been mild enough for him to be able to tolerate it and play through it. And being a running back and the volume that he's had over the years between high school and college and the NFL, he's definitely had injuries. They just weren't, in his opinion, bad enough to sit. So is he going to be 100%? God, no. You add turf toe to at least a mild lateral ankle sprain, or maybe moderate, we'll see. And at the minimum, he's going to be 50, 60%. Maybe 70% if everything goes perfect this week. The good news is he has a longer bye after that, a longer gap. But is there a scenario where he re-injures it and he suffers a worse injury and maybe misses a month? Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say that that's crazy. I think he plays unless the team doesn't allow him to play. That's the only way he doesn't play. And he does okay, but I don't think he's gonna. He may retweak it and he's gonna look hobbled. I think that's how it'll play out.
Well, Dr. Jesse Morris from thefantasydoctors.com. I always appreciate you coming on. We'll talk to you again soon, my friend. Take care.
Thank you very much.
You got it. Outstanding job, as always, by Dr. Jesse Morris. All right. We're going to take a timeout. We come back. My man, Jason Braddock, joins us right after this.
Make bets and follow your fantasy team while you buy, sell, and trade collectibles only on Bettor Sports Network.
We got to get a team in Honolulu. What about that, Ray? You think Oakland? Nobody's talking about Honolulu for the Oakland A's to move to. How badass would that be to have a Major League Baseball team? Instead, they want to go to where it's 120 degrees in the desert of Vegas.
Right.
Ray, they should pick up and go to Honolulu. That would be epic right there for the A's.
They could go to Honolulu, and instead of playing 12 games against a team throughout the course of the year, you just play a 12-game set. Just get it done.
What's the flight from the Bay Area? 4 hours?
It's depending which direction you're going, it's 5.5.
Okay, that's not terrible. You'd have to manage the schedule a bit.
Right.
But it's doable. Like, you play your West Coast games, and then maybe you give an extra day. Like you play in San Francisco through Sunday, and then you have your Monday off. Everybody gets their Monday off, and then they play, out in Hawaii for 4 games. Then they come back for the weekend.
It's very similar time-wise for us in California, in the Bay Area, to go to Hawaii as it is to go to New York. It's very similar. So, yeah, like you're saying, Giants do that to go to the Mets. The A's do that to go to the Yankees. They do it, so it would be very similar.
They would be they've already got the baseball background. I mean, they're dominant. The island loves their baseball. And Ray, you could even rebrand the team from the Oakland A's to the Oakland Lays. You can do the Lays, Ray. Look at that.
Good. That's actually, there's no way that would ever happen, but that's pretty good, Kyle. On the fly.
I'm giving away like free marketing right here.
Good work.
Right on the show.
The plan is for them to stay here, but the fans hate them. I don't know if the city likes them. They can't. I mean, it's embarrassing. I don't know. The plan
There's
is
a lot of land in Hawaii. Just think about the views, Ray, of the Pacific. It would put your crap ballpark in San Francisco to shame. Like, everybody thinks that's a good view.
Right.
They'd have like waterfalls and real palm trees and the Pacific Ocean.
People trolling fire in the 7th inning stretch.
They would make the Giants Park look like, the vet in Philly. It would look that awful if they moved to Hawaii.
And then you go to your flip-flops or shorts. They serve Mai Tais. They give lays away. Or the first 5,000 fans, whatever.
Well, everybody in the chat room loves it. Every time I get a compliment, I don't bring it up on the show.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I don't want to be that guy.
Call, chat, enter contests in real time. It's Sports Talk 3.0 with Bettor Sports Network. On Call with Dr. Roto on Bettor Sports Network.
All right, we're back. It's time now to chat with my friend. His name is Jason Braddock. The man knows all about football. We used to do podcasts together called Reality Meets Fantasy, and that's how we break it down. So, JB, what's going on, my friend?
Doing good. Thanks for having me back, Doc, as always.
All right, so let's talk about your Houston Texans there. Dameon Pierce, that was a big run. Was it that he just ran against the Chargers' poor run defense, or was there just a concerted effort to get him the football, even though he didn't have that many carries?
Well, no, I think it was a little bit of both, obviously, but the run game for the Texans really started picking up a little bit better, especially on that play. When they got outside, you always hear a hat on a hat. That's what you saw literally all the way down the field. Brandon Cooks, the veteran, putting on the burners all the way down the field. I think it's J.C. Jackson that he's able to just rub a little bit right at the end to ensure that Dameon Pierce is able to take that to the house. So it was a lot about great blocking. It was also about Dameon Pierce seeing the cutbacks better this week as well. And also in the passing game, I said that this week I expected him to see more targets. And this week alone than he had seen in the entire season. He came in catching 4 balls on 4 targets. This game he had 6 catches on 6 targets. So his role is going to continue to increase.
Jason, I just one more question about the Texans here. I don't think they're throwing the ball enough. It feels like they're running a very conservative offense to me. And I want to see Nico Collins. I want to see more Brandon Cooks. I'm not seeing enough firepower here. Is this going to change anytime soon?
Well, what we're seeing happen, they've played 4 games, and they should have won all 4 games, or at least in the conversation in all 4 of these games, but they shoot themselves in the foot, and in the fourth quarter, they just completely fall apart. It's drops. The Texans wide receivers have 7 drops, which is, I believe, tied for second most among wide receiver groups. So you have that issue there that's limited the efficiency and allowing you to see more 3 and outs. And then also the offensive line. I mean, especially pass protection is just not good, and he's getting blindsided and hit, so it's limited. But this past week, they did the best week of playing more to his strengths, limiting the throws towards the sidelines and downfield, and tighten up the field more, tighter towards the seams and over the middle and underneath a lot better. And he had his best week this week, no matter what the stats show.
Jason, we had a good question here from Spy007. He said, Doc, do you think the Indy offensive line will get better? Pittman and Taylor can't get going without bad offensive line. Jason, the Colts look terrible. They really look terrible this year. And I know Shaquille Leonard has not been playing. Matt Ryan is, 427 years old. But this offensive line really hasn't been great.
It hasn't, and most of Jonathan Taylor's stats came against the worst rush defense in the NFL. The Texans in Week 1 put up like 160, I think, on 30-plus carries. So with Jonathan Taylor, he's not 100%, and we talked about this coming into the season, that this guy over his last 5 years, you go back to college, all 3 years in college, 299 that first year, and then every year after that, 300-plus carries all 3 years, counting the 299 the first one, in college, and then 2 straight 300-plus carry seasons, and then you factor in the playoffs last year, you factor in his workload down the stretch last year. The dude is just putting on too much work, and I think we're starting to see that body wear. You factor that in with the offensive line not being good, limited weapons in the offense, and Matt Ryan getting long in the tooth. I think it's all going to limit Jonathan Taylor's production for the entirety of the season.
Jason, is playing the Texans defense a cheat code in DFS? I mean, should we be playing James Robinson in every lineup this week?
James Robinson and probably Travis Etienne. They're giving up so many receptions to the backs. They're biting so hard. I mean, I've never seen a team that just gives up contain 4 weeks into the season and just you can't get your guys to contain the outsides. On that last, I believe it was the last touchdown that the Chargers scored, put them up 34-24 and put the game away. You get down to pivotal plays and they just bootleg out Justin Herbert, and he just checks it down to Austin Eckler. I mean, you think by that point, if not before, you would definitely have an extreme focus on Austin Eckler, and they just let him escape outside on the run. They just check it down to him on the runs, let him get the yak after the catch. It's hard to watch because you're talking about this is a professional football team, and you can't just do the basics, make tackles. And this secondary has 20 missed tackles, most in the NFL. The defense as a whole, 36 missed tackles, most in the NFL.
Okay. The Packers are 3-1. The Lions are 1-3. But to the naked eye, the Lions look like they're a better team than the Packers. How are they 3-1 when Aaron Rodgers looks like he's literally going through the motions?
Yeah, it's insane to watch because I think I'm smiling when you're saying it because I know exactly where you're going with it. The Lions are playing like a great team. Jared Goff is tied for the most touchdown passes in the NFL this year with 11 touchdown passes, if I'm not mistaken. And I mean, you're talking about Geno Smith right there. So everything's kind of flipped up, like what we thought we knew and what we're seeing at least through the first almost quarter of the season. And so. And are you blown away, by the Giants other than Saquon Barkley?
You still there, Chase?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah. So you mentioned Saquon Barkley. The Giants literally have nobody. The Giants have nobody but Barkley, but Brian Dable is calling a great game where he's running naked bootlegs to Daniel Jones, who looks like the Giants' RB2 because he's certainly not a QB1. Can the Giants keep playing at this level and winning games?
Yes. Most years, Doc, I would say no. That'd be my answer. But let me expound why I say yes this year. Parity. NFL's wanted parity. Sports want parity. They want all the fan bases bought in. They brag about most one-score games in NFL history to this point going into the fourth quarter. They want tight games. They want parity. They want in the hunt for as long as they can. 7 playoff teams from 14 total now. That's just better for the ratings. More teams are in the hunt now. When you look at it, the AFC, I think you've got 3 teams that are over 500 and the Dolphins, Bills, and Chiefs. And then you've got 8 teams that are 2-2, 4 teams that have 1 win, and then the Texans.
Jason, I love DJ Moore coming into the season. I mean, and when Matt Rule called out the receivers for not getting open, DJ Moore, all he could do was laugh. How bad is Baker Mayfield? I mean, where did it all go wrong for this guy who was a former number one pick, who was a rookie of the year, and now he looks like, poo-poo on a platter?
Well, it's funny that you say that. I've been looking at with Davis Mills those first 3 weeks of the season until this last week where he was third best. I was looking at those next gen NFL stats where they're looking at the advanced stats completion percentage, and Mayfield has been brutal. And I was looking at for Davis Mills down here in Houston covering the Texans, and last 21st, 25th, and then last week he was third highest quarterback in NFL over expected completion percentage. Mayfield's way down on that list, struggling just to make passes. Reason I wasn't in on DJ Moore is just that you just look at it, and every year, like, all right, this year he's really going to take that next step. This year he's going to take every year he has 4 touchdowns. Doesn't matter how many games he plays, how many targets, he's going to end with 4 touchdowns. So I just, with Baker coming in, definitely didn't feel like the touchdown value was going to be there for him. But also to expand, Doc, if you don't mind, another guy that coming into this year and through his career, I had higher expectations, especially now being with Matt Stafford. He doesn't look the same. Allen Robinson, that's not the same Allen Robinson that we saw coming out of Penn State and first couple of years with the Jags and then early on with Chicago.
I would agree with that if he wasn't getting open. I might argue it's not the same Matthew Stafford because Allen Robinson looks
that's
like
absolutely.
He's open and he's not going to him.
The only thing Allen Robinson really hasn't lost on is his shake. I used to call him the Matrix when I evaluate him coming out of Penn State because his shake off the line was insane. Now, he went to the second round. I had a first round grade on him, but he went to the second round because he's not the fastest 40 guy. He's not the, he's just not the athlete. So these guys go in the second round. But you watch what he does. His shake off the line is just incredible. And watching him in that game last night, that he still has that shake, but you see when the ball's in the air, he doesn't have that explosion. He's not high point. He's not attacking it at the point in the NFL in a game of inches. He's got to continuously be that dude, and he's not. But to your point on Stafford, I got 0 shares of Stafford. I didn't buy that he was 100% coming into the season. I had concerns, and I still have concerns. I think it's going to be a long year for the Rams. I hear the talk about Beckham coming back there. They need him back there, or Cooper Kupp's going to have to get 20 targets a game. But I don't know why it would go back there because I don't think they're in the title hunt this year.
Jason, you're one of the best talent evaluators I know. Who were some of the guys that you really liked that you haven't seen step up yet, but maybe in the next, quarter of the season, the next 4 games, you'll see them emerge? Who are a couple of guys on your list that you liked during the draft period? Kind of like Khalil Herbert last year. All of a sudden he emerged. Who's this year's kind of guy?
It's evading me right now. Maybe something else will come. But the guy, we see the title here, who is replacing Williams and Patterson. Well, Cordell Patterson, we've been talking about all in the preseason to this. Tyler Algier is just not getting enough attention. Well, now with Cordell Patterson on IR, this guy's coming off a game where he was asked to step up 10 carries, 81 yards, 8+ yards a carry. And we know Caleb Huntley, stole that value from him in that last game. But like foolishly of me, I cut Tyler Algier right before this game because they were saying that Cordell Patterson was missing practice, resting vet. It didn't have to do with the knee. Should never listen to what they say.
Jason, I got to be honest with you. I love you like a brother. But you make some of the worst fantasy decisions of anybody I know.
I do. I'm very, even though I've been doing this for so long, I'm very impulsive. If I get something, if makes sense in my mind, I just assume the coaches and front office are in sync. And case in point, and I don't think he's a great back, but Joe Mixon is the worst running back worst starting running back in the NFL right now. He's giving you nothing statistically. The eye test, everything is showing you Joe Mixon is a shell of himself, but they keep feeding him. I try to get in on it early, and that's where Doc, you've seen me through the years. I'll hang on to a guy too long, or I'll try to get in a little bit too early, and I definitely did that this past week.
Well, it's so funny you mentioned that because I have Mixon literally in one league. And I didn't even want to take him. I was upset
Right.
that I took him because he just doesn't, he can't get off the line. He can't make a move. There's just no running room. And I'm not even sure if there was running room, he could find the hole.
Oh, I don't like touching backs. So yeah, if it's set in my mind that a running back's going to get injured, knock on wood, I hope these guys stay healthy. I never root for an injury. That being said, though, if I'm planning, especially in money leagues, on what I think is going to happen that season, I didn't draft any Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey. Unfortunately, I didn't draft any Saquon Barkley for the same reason. So foolish of me there where it backfired. And Jonathan Taylor, I only got him in one league. I had the second pick. They took Cooper Kupp, and I'm like, I'm worried about that injury, the 299 plus touches, 5 straight seasons. I'm worried about that workload and the offense and what Matt Ryan's going to be. I took him in one league, and now I'm kicking myself because I think we're going to see him on a similar trajectory that we Henry.
I want to talk about 2 players with you before we let you go. One
Sure.
is your man from Clemson, Trevor Lawrence.
Okay.
What are you seeing? He looks more confident. He didn't play very well against the Eagles, but it was bad weather. The Eagles are a good defense.
That
Do
Eagles
you
D.
think this is very good? The Eagles D is very good. Do you think he's coming up this year?
I definitely do. And I mean, I was worried about it because, I mean, he basically had a redshirt year last year with Urban Meyer. I mean, just from the onset, this isn't hindsight. I was just like, what week is Urban Meyer going to pull Bobby Petrino? I mean, I thought it ended worse than it did. As bad as it ended, I thought he was going to leave notes in guys' lockers and just leave, and we'd see him doing the pig suey the next day as announced as a college head coach. But I'm getting off track, though. But I felt like he redshirted, and he responded a lot better to Doug Peterson this year early on than I expected. That Eagles defense, like you said, the weather and the talent of that defense, they're playing at another level this year. So I kind of give him a pass on that. In a league of parity, he's blown out 2 teams. They've blown out 2 teams by 24 and 28 points, and then they've got 2 losses by 1 score. The defense was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. If they can consistently get James Robinson and ETN clicking and not just the big plays, then that offense really has a lot more potential. But Trevor Lawrence was a half-field read guy, and they didn't play him like that as a rookie. This year, they kind of play him more to that strings underneath. Evan Ingram, a lot of targets, but it's not going to be far down the field. Running backs, a lot of targets, slot guys, all of that, and then take the occasional shot. Similar to what he did at Clemson. So I think they're playing him more to his strength. And against the Texans this week, they're giving up more 20-yard plays to wide receivers than anybody in the league.
Does that mean you like Christian Kirk this week or Zay Jones?
Well, let's see. The way they've been trying to make Derek Stingley kind of mirror side to side with the number 1 guys, because that's the plan for the future, is just develop these guys and let them become that guy. So with Kirk, he plays so much out that slot. He's going to see a lot of Desmond King. I do like Christian Kirk a lot this week. Zay Jones is going to be interesting because the bigger guys have put up production. If Zay Jones plays, he's a guy that can get production just because of the 20-plus yard plays. But out of the best of them, go with the top guy. I wouldn't outthink it here. If Zay doesn't play, Jamal Agnew. What did I tell you about Trevor Lawrence? He likes to check down low underneath. Texans miss tackles. The yak will be there for Agnew coming off a 2-touchdown game.
All right, last player for you here. Your boy, Zach Wilson. Nice comeback last week. I thought he and Breece Hall looked really sharp together.
They did. Breece has the most drops in the NFL. He's the second most targeted running back with 27. I think Eckler's first with 29, but he also leads the league with 5 drops. Nobody else has more than 3, and so he's got to get that easy, take the change, the profit, and Zach Wilson will feed him that, like the chemistry. And Zach Wilson missed some key time here going into his second year. Missed first 3 games, so to come back and then late in that game when you really need it back against the wall, not garbage time, go 6 for 6, make the throws that need to be there. I think he's really starting to clip. Arrows pointing up on him as well. The number 1, number 2 pick in the draft, arrows really pointing up on both those guys from 2021, obviously.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, Jason Braddock, appreciate you being on, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Doc. Thanks for having me. Take care, and good luck this week in fantasy.
You got it. That's Jason Braddock from the Houston Football Show, and of course from drroto.com, where he does his early look DFS article each week for us. All right. A few minutes to go left in the show. So here's what I like to do. It is my, what I call my visceral response. Just something that I catch in a game here. And I say to myself, what am I looking at? What am I looking at in week number 5? Because usually people say, who should I start? I don't even know who's playing. We'll find out right now. Colts and Broncos. Interesting. I'm watching carefully here the running games. Is Jonathan Taylor playing? If not, is it a Nyheim Hines, Deion Jackson, Philip Lindsay love fest? For the Broncos, Melvin Gordon, Mike Boone, how does that shake out? Is there any Lat Murray or is there no Lat Murray? Giants and Packers. Will I have to fly to London to start at quarterback for the Giants? A dream of mine. If Daniel Jones can't make it, remember, Packers soft against the run. Saquon is the Giants' only weapon. But if the Packers know that the Giants can't throw the ball, will this be one of those weeks that Saquon maybe doesn't get it done? For the Packers, I think they got to establish that running game. I think A.J. Dillon's got to go off. He needs an A.J. Dillon game. I'm watching that. Steelers, Bills. You know, Carlo asks, is George Pickens a household name? Will he be a household name this week with Kenny Pickett? George Pickens is a baller. And Kenny Pickett is going to have to find him. So I'm watching that. For the Bills, the receivers. Jamison Crowder's done. Isaiah McKenzie with a concussion. Gabe Davis, where are you, dude? I'm sending out an SOS for you. Chargers and Browns. For the Chargers, is Keenan Allen coming back? Myles Garrett will be back. Myles Garrett will be back. And what does that mean for Justin Herbert? Rashawn Slater, not there. Rashawn Slater, really good. That could be an issue against the Browns pass rush. I think the Browns might be a very sneaky DFS pick this week. For the Browns, Nick Chubb. And can Jacoby Brissett throw the ball? And who is he going to throw the ball to? Amari Cooper? I don't know. I don't know who I like this week for the Browns. I like the running backs of the Browns. That's it. And Kareem Hunt could be sneaky. Bears, Vikings. So look, Justin Fields, this should be a game that he does something. If not, I do like the Bears running game here. For the Vikings, as Justin Jefferson goes, the Vikings go. Can Kirk Cousins be consistent? I'm watching that. Lions and Patriots. Is this a Damian Harris week? Feels like one. Feels like we haven't seen Damian Harris score. He might get the deuce. Can see that. I always like Ramondre Stevenson, but this feels like a Damian Harris week. For the Lions, they were so great last week. But remember, Bill Belichick wants to take away the one thing the Lions want to do. TJ Hawkinson will be taken off the field. That doesn't mean he's going to be carted off the field. It means that the Patriots are going to stop TJ Hawkinson. So it'll have to be Josh Reynolds. It'll have to be Tom Kennedy. It'll have to be, Bobby Kennedy. I don't know. It's going to be somebody. It's not going to be Hawkinson this week. Watch me. Seahawks Saints. Can Geno Smith continue to air it out? Can the Seahawks continue to be aggressive? For the Saints, is Kamara back? Is Winston back? Is Thomas back? I mean, all these injuries. Without the injuries, you got Big Red and you got big problems. Dolphins, Jets, Teddy B. Can Teddy B win on the road? They've got a better team than the Jets. But I think the guys to watch are Chase Edmonds or Raheem Mostert because the Jets don't stop the run very well. So I would think those guys will play well. For the Jets, can Zach Wilson handle the Dolphins' pass rush? How involved will the Jets' running backs be? The Jets need Breece Hall and Michael Carter for sure. Falcons and Buccaneers, Tyler Algier. I'm looking for him. I'm looking for Kyle Pitts, big time. Big time. For the Buccaneers, this is a Tom Brady week. Lock it in. Chris Godwin, lock it in. Lock it in. This is one of those weeks where Brady gets 330 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's what happens. He always has that week. This is the week. Titans and Commanders. Derrick Henry. Well, look, I'm worried about the Titans. They don't have a passing attack. Traylon Burks is out. Bobby Trees, I don't know about that. Maybe Kyle Phillips, because Benjamin's saying Juste sucks. For the Commanders, is Brian Robinson playing? Jahan Dotson's out. I like Terry McLaurin a lot this week. I think he has a big advantage. I think Wentz should be able to find him. Texans and Jaguars, I told you the Texans can't stop anybody with the run. This should be a James Robinson week. This should be a Travis Etienne week. For the Texans, I want to see Pierce, but just know that the Jaguars' run defense is really good. Davis Mills will need to throw it this week. Will it be Brandon Cooks? Will it be Nico Collins? They can't run it. The only reason that the Eagles ran it last week was because of Jalen Hurts. And then when Jalen Hurts does it, it opens it up for Miles Sanders. 49ers, Panthers, hide the wife and children. That could be ugly. That's a Debo week. I don't even know how the Panthers score. I just don't even know how the Panthers score. The only thing that can help the Panthers is they're at home. Their defense is good. It's a short week for the 49ers, who came off an emotional game. And maybe, just maybe, my feeling like this is a no-brainer, maybe we got to flip the script. Remember I said this. What if I tell you that the Panthers keep it close and maybe they lose on a last-second field goal? Or maybe the Panthers get the W. For the 49ers, I'm always looking at Jimmy G, and I'm always looking to see if there's anybody else besides Deebo Samuel who can step up. Maybe this is a George Kittle week. Haven't had that in a while. Cowboys and Rams, I don't think that Dak Prescott is playing. I think this is a week where how does CD Lamb do? I think this is a Tony Pollard week and not Ezekiel Elliott week. For the Rams, Allen Robinson, dude, where are you? Trayvon Diggs is going to be on Cooper Kupp because all teams know you got to stop Cooper Kupp, even though it's impossible to stop Cooper Kupp. Trayvon Diggs might be the one guy who can do it. So is this finally an Allen Robinson week? I don't know, but I love the Cowboys defense. I know they're on the road, but that Rams offensive line is not good. The Cowboys defense is very good. Eagles, Cardinals, man, the Eagles have been great. I think the Cardinals have played better than I expected, but this is a hard game for them. I think the Eagles, I'm watching Devonta Smith. I'm watching Dallas Goedert. I like Dallas Goedert a lot this week. For the Cardinals, James Conner's got to do something. It has not been good. Bengals and Ravens, this is Lamar. Lamar did not have a big week. He's going to lose Rashad Bateman, who I don't think plays. Is this a Devin Duvernay week? Mark Andrews is going to reemerge this week. I think he does well against the Bengals. For the Bengals, come on, Joe Mixon. Find a hole and run through it. Find a hole and run through it. You're killing me. If not, Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase. This is a Jamar Chase week. I mean, remember last year what he did against the Ravens. Filleted the Ravens. All right, and finally, the Monday night game, the Raiders and the Chiefs. The Raiders on the road. These games are usually higher scoring, but I think the Raiders are going to try to slow it down. They're going to try to slow it down with the Chiefs and give the ball to Josh Jacobs. It could be a Waller week, certainly a Devontae Adams week. For the Chiefs, I mean, look, we know Kelsey's going to do his thing, and CEH probably will. But right now it's time to put away the insurance cards, put away the copay. The office is closed, my friends. I want to thank my man Tyler Soto for all his help tonight. And of course, Anthony Rip. Appreciate him as well. And I want to thank you guys for listening to the Bettor Sports Network. We are on 7 days a week, and I am back on Friday from 10 p.m. to midnight. All right, so keep it right here and ask all those questions, and we'll break down game by game on Friday with prop bets, DF bets, CFS, and everything that you need. All right, guys, wishing you a great one. This is Dr. Roto saying be well. Take care.